She found her husband on one knee, but he wasn't proposing to her. He was proposing to his first love, who looked beautiful in a wedding dress. He told the other woman that he'd missed her for 30 years and didn't want to have any more regrets. Then he put a ring on her finger. What he didn't know was that his wife of 30 years was watching from a distance. Just 3 days before their 30th anniversary, she found a receipt for a wedding ring. Thinking it was a surprise for her, she followed him, only to find out the surprise was a huge betrayal. This was the same guy who was just on a live TV interview, talking about his wife with tears in his eyes. He told everyone how she worked 3 jobs a day to support him while he was getting his PhD. He talked about how she'd walk through the dark nights she was scared of, just for him, sacrificing for 10 whole years. He even said that his wife was the greatest happiness in his life, way more important than any of his own accomplishments. Later, this supposedly loving husband came home and found his wife waiting for him with a lawyer and divorce papers on the table. When he asked what was going on, she lied and said the papers were for her cousin. You could totally see the relief on his face as he said he was scared she didn't want him anymore. Then he gave her a ring for their anniversary. But as he slid it onto her finger, the doorbell rang. It was his first love, Wan Shu, at the door. The husband said she was a childhood friend, but the woman corrected him right away. She announced that they were each other's first loves and thanked the wife for taking care of him all these years. The wife was furious and called her a mistress. But her husband just got mad, yelling at her for being rude to a guest. It turns out Wan Shu supposedly has terminal cancer, and her dying wish was to have a wedding with him. The husband claimed it was just a formality to grant her final wish. Then he had the nerve to ask his wife to go to the ceremony in 3 days, which was also their 30th wedding anniversary. She calmly agreed. But as soon as he left with his mistress, she picked up the phone. She didn't call a friend. She called their son, the only one who really understood what she had sacrificed. She just told him to come pick her up on her anniversary. Her son knew that his mom had pretty much raised him by herself while his father was always busy, so he didn't ask why. He just promised he'd be there, no matter what. After a lifetime of sacrifice, she was finally planning her way out. After 30 years of marriage, everything she owned fit into a single suitcase. Her husband, whose suits she had always taken such great care of, had just betrayed her. She thought he was taking her to a surprise anniversary party, but instead he took her to a bridal shop. But the surprise wasn't for her. He brought her there to pick out a wedding dress for his first love, Wan Shu, who then showed up already wearing a different dress. He told his wife she had the best taste and asked her to pick out a dress for the other woman. His mistress then told her the truth. They had been together in college before the wife even knew him. She said she only broke up with him because he was poor and needed the wife to pay for his education. Now that he was a successful professor, she had come back, thinking he had always loved her. The wife was heartbroken and bleeding from a cut on her forehead as she listened to this woman brag that she could get him back in a second. The husband, instead of defending his wife of 30 years, took his mistress's side. He claimed his wife was overthinking things and told her she should be more understanding. He tried to calm her down by saying she could have the dress after his mistress wore it once for her dying wish wedding. The wife was furious at the thought of wearing a hand-me-down wedding dress from her husband's mistress, and she finally snapped. She demanded to know if he ever even thought of her as his wife. Then the mistress grabbed a piece of a broken vase and threatened her. With a nasty shove, the mistress sent the wife flying to the floor, and her head hit a vase. As blood dripped down her forehead, the mistress grabbed her own hand and started to cry. Her husband rushed in, not to his bleeding wife of 30 years, but to the mistress. He held her hand and asked if she was hurt. Then he turned on his wife, calling her a monster for attacking someone who was terminally ill. It turned out the mistress had torn the wedding dress on purpose during the fight. When the husband saw the damage, he furiously demanded that his wife pay for it. He reminded her about the 300,000 card she had, which was money she told him was for emergencies. What he didn't know was that this was her dowry, the last bit of money she had. He accused her of being selfish and heartless. He threatened to call their son and tell him how cruel she was if she didn't pay. Feeling defeated, she gave him the card and walked out. On the day of the wedding, the mistress was at the fancy venue, excitedly setting everything up just the way the wife liked it, from a heart-shaped balloon to a big character for joy. Just as the wedding planner was complimenting her beautiful setup, the real wife showed up to confront the new bride and her cheating husband. The man viciously slapped his wife of 30 years across the face and screamed at her for making a scene. Just a few moments before, he was the one dragging her into a back room, away from all their friends and neighbors. It turned out this was his wedding day, but he wasn't marrying his wife. He was marrying his mistress of many years. When the wife showed up, her husband just lied, trying to pass her off as his unmarried sister. The mistress then had the nerve to ask her to be their bridesmaid, which was a cruel joke that the husband did nothing to stop. He had warned her to stay away, claiming the wedding was just a fake ceremony to fulfill his mistress's dying wish, but the wife knew better. As the wife stood there alone, she overheard guests gossiping. They were calling her pathetic for being at her own husband's wedding to his mistress. It was only then that she remembered the phone call from her son. He had seen the $300,000 charge for a wedding dress and called her because he was worried she'd been scammed. She had lied to him, saying it was a surprise for her 30th anniversary with his father. But with her cheek still stinging from her husband's slap, her phone rang again. It was her son. This time, she told him everything. She told him that the medical report she had sent him was the key. His father's mistress wasn't terminally ill at all. It was all a big lie to get rid of her, and now she needed his help to expose everything. At her own husband's wedding, the wife got on stage, not as a guest but as the bridesmaid. When the officiant asked her to present the bouquet, she walked down the aisle with a microphone in one hand and a remote in the other. She had a different gift in mind. With one click, a video started playing on the big screen behind the altar. On the screen, the guests saw the bride admit that she and the groom had been together since college. She admitted that 30 years ago she broke up with him because he was too poor. It was only after his wife worked for 10 years to put him through college that he became a successful professor. The bride bragged that he had always loved her and that the wife was just a stepping stone. The bride's face went pale with shock. The guests started whispering, realizing the bridesmaid was the groom's actual wife. The video kept playing, showing the bride in the dress shop, purposely smashing a vase and using a piece of it to cut her own hand, all while framing the wife for the attack. The bride then fell to her knees, crying for the husband to help her. The whole wedding hall was in an uproar. The bride, feeling exposed and humiliated, ran to the husband and begged him to explain, but he just shoved her away. He yelled that he never loved her and only agreed to the fake wedding because he thought she was dying. The husband was stunned. He tried to say he was sorry and promised to explain everything, but she just laughed. The next second, their son stormed into the hall and interrupted the ceremony. He confronted his father, asking how he could get married on his 30th wedding anniversary. It was only then that the husband realized he had forgotten the most important day of his life. The son held up a medical report, but the mistress screamed that it was fake and tried to grab it from him. As the guests watched in shock, the wife took the stage. It turned out she had planned a surprise of her own. A hidden video played on the giant screen, showing the mistress confessing to her whole 30-year plan. The guests watched in horror as the mistress admitted she was never sick. He was totally shocked and pleaded with her, saying he would cancel the wedding right away. But the woman told him they had no future. The man couldn't believe she would divorce him over something so small. He insisted the wedding was fake and that he was a victim too. His words only made her angrier. She asked how him being a victim could possibly take away the pain and damage he had caused her. The husband grabbed her arm. He admitted he was wrong and begged her to go home so they could talk. She told him he should have worried about that when he forced his legal wife to stand at his wedding to his mistress and give them her blessing. The man insisted he just didn't want to make a scene, but she finally told him the truth. His mistake wasn't being tricked. It was that deep down he never really cared about her at all. Their son watched all this happen, and the father turned to him for help. He reminded him that he couldn't just watch his mother leave. The son coldly called him Professor Joe, not father. He said that from the moment he saw the security video of his father not believing his mom and bullying her, he couldn't call him dad anymore. As his mother turned to leave, the panicked professor grabbed her and slapped her across the face. When the son saw this, he exploded with rage. He screamed at his father, asking how he could dare to hit his own wife. He said that his mother was too kind to slap him back, but that he would do it for her. The son ripped the flower off his tuxedo and threw it on the ground. His mother held him back, begging him not to ruin his future. She reminded him that he was a director at a publicly traded company. The son was filled with rage and warned his father that if he ever dared to follow them, he wouldn't be so polite next time. After his wife and son walked out, the man turned to the bride, who was still kneeling on the floor. She begged him to go on with the wedding, promising to be a good wife. But he furiously turned her down. He announced that his one and only wife would always be the woman who had just left. He told the bride he would never go through with this with a liar. Then he announced to all the stunned guests that the whole wedding was a total fake before walking off the stage. The humiliated bride, left all alone on the floor, swore that this wasn't over. The husband rushed home with a bouquet of sunflowers, calling out his wife's name, but the house was silent and empty. He searched the rooms in the closet, but all of her things were gone. He collapsed in despair, remembering the moment she handed him the divorce papers at the wedding. He was totally devastated, realizing she had really left him. Meanwhile, the son took his mother to a new, modern apartment he had bought last year. He told her to stay there and said he would take care of his father. The mother was still shaken and knew they needed to get her marriage certificate from the old house to finalize the divorce. The son took her hands and calmed her down, telling her she didn't need to go herself for something so small. He promised to go get it for her. The mother was moved to tears. She stroked his face and told him that in the past 30 years, the best thing she had ever done was give birth to him. The son promised that from now on, no matter what happened, he would be there to make all the decisions for her.